up, Vin?
I'm sorry.
If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the filthy capitalist option. As Sori says, $125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. $125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and you get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at vinsori@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is a community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go on the village, facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Buy our merch.
Buy our merch
Here
indeed.
we are.
Buy our merch indeed.
This is Vinterland.
Vinterland.
Not Winterland. Vinterland, as I behold the dying sun.
Very uplifting. Very uplifting phraseology there. This is Vinterland. This is for the big homie Perkinos, as you can see in the little track thingy down there. The big homie has a birthday today. We're very happy that God gave us the big homie today. So we're going to celebrate by all of his tracks because he has a DJ stream and we were able to coordinate. That's what we do, ladies and gentlemen. The best reaction channel of all time. As I behold the dying sun, Vinterland. Let's do it. Okay, so this right here,
Ouch.
in my opinion, is what Freezing Moon or Frozen Moon should have been. And you can see it's got a similar title, right? Behold the Dying Sun. As I Behold the Dying Sun. And, it's talking about frozen land, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that the lyrics are inspired by the landscape that they grew up in.
Yep.
Very probably similar to Frozen Moon. Like, Europe is a hard place to be geographically at times and in certain seasons. So, like, lyrically, it was similar to Frozen Moon to a degree. But musically, like, I'm not certain. Like, and I still to this moment am not certain. Like, the first generation black metal stuff, like, even if it's low production, like for example, there's times when, like, so for heavy riffage, you don't really recognize it until you hear it with the drums and all the rest of it, right?
Yep.
But for, like, melodies and stuff, even if I'm not plugged in, there's been a lot of times where, like, oh, hey,
yeah,
wait
you're
a second.
right, yeah.
So, like, when I listen to Frozen Moon, I'm like, I'm okay with the low productions, because these guys didn't have, like, if this was remastered, like, this wasn't like, it's not like they spent $90,000 on this song for production. You know what I'm saying? It was, but you could tell with the tremolo, like the tremolo sections, like those are legit good melodies. It's like that guitarist is a really smart guitarist because he didn't really go outside of the main riff or the main lick that he was using in the progression for the tremolo.
Yep.
But he did enough variation to where he always stayed in the neighborhood, and he understood what he was doing and where he was in the song. But you could just tell, okay, that is an epic progression. That makes sense. It's melodic. It's really, really good. Yes, there's a low production quality. These guys are, probably, first, maybe second generation guys. But you could just tell that the musicianship was there. And that's my issue
I agree with that.
With Frozen Moon and all the rest of it. It's like, yeah, man, you got the low production thing, but your
Frozen
musicianship
Moon?
sucks. Like,
Was that
it's
Mayhem?
terrible. Huh?
Who did Frozen Moon? Was that Mayhem?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, like, that's the Mayhem classic and all that. People were saying we weren't getting it. And you know what? That's okay.
Yeah.
We probably don't get it.
Yep.
We probably didn't get it. But I just think that, like, this song and lyrically, it's like, okay, this is what Frozen Moon should have been. You know what I mean? Like, because these guys are actually artists. Like, if you listen to Frozen Moon, I don't think there's anybody who has a guitar for 2 weeks that wouldn't say, "Oh, I can do that." You know what I'm saying?
I can't believe you remember that much of it.
Oh,
That's
well, I
crazy
mean,
to me.
it wasn't much. There was not much to remember or forget about that band. Like, I'm not hating on them. Like, I think I gave it like a 5 or something just for the sake of the culture. It's because I didn't want to give it a 0 because I didn't want to disrespect so many people. But that shit was terrible, bro. I'm sorry, and I will never like it. I just think that they got as Perk says, they were definitely more competent musicians than Mayhem at the time. It's no question. And that's my thing. It's like the musicianship, in the early Mayhem was just, it was not about musicianship. It was about these guys have opened up something that nobody's done before.
Yeah.
And you got a bunch of angry European people that want to,
I think when you're starting something new, you can be a little bit more crazy with it, and people are just like the novelty of the newness. But then after something's been going for a while, then you really have to come out with something really amazing.
And this right here, and I don't know enough of Mayhem's catalog to speak intelligently to it. I'm just comparing this to Frozen Moon, and I'm like, if somebody said, okay, what's like hard, and I don't know where these guys are on the timeline. Is this, because Perk did say that they were a pretty influential band. Let me see here. He had said something. What did he say? He said something about them being pretty influential. Like, let me see. I want to find it. I want to find that comment. There it is. This is one of the seminal Swedish melodic black metal bands that are up there with the likes of Dissection and Sacramentum. Okay, so I think that's wave 2, I think. I think the section and those boys came in the wave too.
Okay.
Which is fine. Maybe second wave black metal is my favorite type of black metal. You know. So if that's the case, you know, I might like the second generation.
Yeah.
Although the Magwas of the world and all that.
That's what I was going to ask you. What about their...
I don't know. I don't know if they would be Generation 4. I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, but Magua and Batushka are some of my all-time favorite bands up, period. Much less black metal bands. But yeah, I just this one, I'm like, holy shit. Sonically, it was really, really good. Lyrically, it was talking about the landscape.
Yeah.
I think.
Do you think that it's literally like... So when I think... I've actually never been to Alaska. It's just what I've heard about Alaska. It kind of reminded me of that, like when they have even their summers are not very long or very great, I don't think. And then when winter rolls around, it's hard and it's dark for a long time. And so I wondered if it was kind of like that. As I behold the dying sun with brightened eyes, its light will then soon disappear from the land of death. Like if you were to call it the land of death, not because it literally, but just because everything is always in a state of dying because it's such a cold landscape. The frozen land of death. Like when winter rolls around here, there's some fun to it, you know, like because it's pretty when it snows, but then there are days where it just feels like a cold land of death, you know what I mean, where it's just like the trees are dead, there's no flowers, there's just mud and nastiness everywhere and everything's frozen. You know what I'm saying?
It really is interesting how your environment, you know, people talk about nature nurture, and most of the time when they say their environment, they're not talking about the literal environment. They're talking about the metaphorical environment that gets created by a collocation of people. But I almost never hear in the nature nurture conversation the literal environment and what it does to shaping your actions and your personality and your and even your belief systems.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, that's me, you know, falling asleep on Terrence McKenna. Where
How
Terrence, oh my God, he was talking about how he was having a conversation with the mushroom.
Yeah.
Because in his
last night, what you were...
Yeah, he believes that basically what we're calling DMT chemicals, whatever you want to say, is really sentient beings from another planet who are trying to communicate to us, but know we'll be freaked out if they communicate to us directly, so they camouflage themselves in these, you know, fungi, whatever. And he talks about this conversation he had with the mushrooms, which of course we talked about with ayahuasca, when the brilliant Westerners, the enlightened Westerners showed up and said, "How do you guys know? Because you know you've got the inhibitor, right?
The plant taught us." Oh.
So you take the DMT. It's true, yeah. You take the DMT, and the effects are kind of stymied because your randomly undesigned body inhibits that chemical because it said we shouldn't be tripping for this long. So your body naturally does that. And then ayahuasca, though, when you add that, it releases that valve so that you can have a longer, more potent experience. And so the Westerners are like, how the hell did you guys figure that out? And they said, oh, the plant told us. And they're being dead ass serious. So then here's Terrence McKenna. He's having this conversation with the mushroom while he's in this, I think it was psilocybin. But my point is, like, and, you know, I'm not going to get too woo-woo out there with the whole, you know, your environment is actually conscious, which is an actual legitimate scientific theory. Shout out to Don Hoffman. I'm not even going to go there, but we don't talk about how the environment itself shapes people. So one example would be, and I'm just literally just using this as an example. When you're in New York, you walk everywhere. So some of that is just the society that's created by people. But New York is a really condensed area, so you walk everywhere.
Yeah.
And you don't want to take a vehicle because the environment is so condensed that you'll have to wait forever. You'd much rather just walk. I mean, you know, we did so much walking when we were in New York. So I was in New York for all these years. I come up to Maine and people aren't walking. So you go to Walmart in New York and you see regular people. You go to Walmart in Maine and you're seeing morbidly obese people.
Yeah, and they ride around on the Mart carts.
Yeah, and it's like
even walk.
when we first
like sometimes
arrived,
it's like that there's a handicap issue, but other times it's just they've gotten so large it's hard for them to even walk around the store.
yeah,
It's not good.
yeah. And like that level, I had never seen before. Like me.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, me and my brother both kind of looked at each other because you see one person here and there. It was like, yeah, I mean it's Maine.
Yeah.
And we were like, holy moly. That's just one example of how. And then the other side of that is just winters in New York are not as harsh. So you're more likely to be outside. Winters in Maine, I mean, people just hibernate.
Yep.
And again, when you're in, it affects.
What are you gonna do?
It affects your. So it's really, really
Eat and
fascinating.
watch shows, yeah.
It's fascinating how your environment. And I was, Chicago. Every time it gets warm, the shootings increase. Why? Because more dudes are outside.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
in the winter months, everybody was inside. But what are you going to do in the winter months? Well, I'm going to be on my phone. So then they get on their phone and start texting each other and start tweeting each other and start talking shit to each other. So all through the winter months, they're inside, but they're still talking to each other on Facebook and all this shit. And then when the summer comes, everybody's back outside. That's when they start killing each other. So it's like all of that shit is being dictated by the literal environment where they come from. And it's just massively interesting, like how your environment has so many effects on what you do, what you eat, how much you eat, how much you run. Like it's crazy. It's unbelievable.
Yep.
So these metalheads here, like it's clear that the environment had such a massive impact on them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's
See,
like
I can hear the sun's breathing, the dying sun. Behold the last of him. It will faint to gray. I would have thought it would have said fade, but to gray. The wings of winter will rise as it dies. The crystal ground will ask the sun to die.
yeah.
You know, there used to be a little movie that we used to watch when we were kids, and it was that idea, like it probably was like Jack Frost or something like that. And there's like this battle between the winter and the spring.
Yeah.
And who's gonna win out and stuff like that. I like the concept, but the way I think that they are talking about the landscape. I also think that you could flip it and it could be a song about depression. I don't think that's what it is, but I do think that it could function that way.
Well, people have, that's another way the environment affects you. People have seasonal depression. So to your point, I think there's a way to interpret this literally and,
Yep.
In the sense of this is a metaphor for depression. I think, yeah, they go hand in hand.
You know what's interesting? Every spring, I hope I'm not sharing too much. Every spring you go through a heavy depression, and in the fall, that's when mine kicks in.
Yeah.
It's very weird because I'm always surprised every time yours kicks in the spring, because for me it's like it's spring now and summer's coming and there's excitement and there's fun and the sun and there's so much like excitement. But then the fall, I have to focus on like apple pies and pumpkin flavoring and like normal white girl things because that's the only thing to like make myself feel like better, because I know if the fall wasn't followed by a cold and harsh and very long winter, then I probably wouldn't have so much of a problem with it. One thing that's odd though is the winters don't seem so bad living in an apartment.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when I was living in a house, the winters were worse.
Oh, is that because of you had to get the wood and all that versus just turning up the heat?
I think it's the wood, bringing in the wood. I think it's having to take care of the driveway. Although I really do hate having to move the car when it snows.
But that goes to the physical fitness aspect, because doing that woodwork and things like that gets you that kind of like,
yeah, I know,
that strong.
Yes, I was very
know what
much
I'm
better
saying?
there. Now I'm like, I was stirring the cookies by hand. I'm like, holy shit, my arms are weak.
Well, you should do some push-ups.
No, I was making
Push-ups will
your
help.
dumplings. That's what it was. So I had to keep banging them. And every time I banged them, I'm like, what's happening?
I hate winter. I'm trying to negotiate with Dorian to he wants to live in the Northeast. I'm trying to negotiate with him. We're out there fishing. I'm like, if we were in certain places, you'd get a lot of fish. So so he's mulling it over. This is a 9.7 for me. My favorite song of the night so far.
9.4 for moi.
There you are, dear listener. The moral of the story is write good lyrics, okay, and make an attempt to make something beautiful with your art, and stop trying to act like you're like avant-garde and all the rest of it. And your music just sucks. But that's not this band. Shout out to this band. I want to get it right. Vinterland. Shout out to Vinterland. They did a really good job. Vin out.
Vinterland. Sorry out.
Gong.